The Multimedia Ninja Podcast, episode 56. Hello again, and welcome to the Multimedia Ninja Podcast, where it's all about surviving and thriving in the digital convergence. My name is Bradford Rogers, and I'll be interviewing some multimedia ninjas who are making things happen in their respective fields, and sharing tips, tools, and insights for multimedia artists and content creators. As always, you can find show notes at themultimedianinja.com. This week, drummer, engineer, and producer, Mr. Brian Stevens. As you may know, in this podcast series, my friends and I will be talking about all things multimedia, including creativity, shaping your ideas, and how to be more productive doing it, regardless of what kind of content you're creating. We have got an exciting episode for you today, so what do you say we just let's get to it? Hey there. Does it look a little different today?
Hi.
That's because we're here with this guy, Mr. Brian Stevens.
Hi, everybody.
Here at studio whose name I don't actually know.
This is Bonzo Tune Studios
Aha.
in Buford, Sugar Hill, Swanee. We're in some nebulous area in that general location.
I'm guessing it's named after a certain drummer.
Yes.
Okay.
Whose birthday was yesterday.
Oh, all right. That would be Keith Moon, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
John Bonham.
John Bonham from Led Zeppelin.
For you young kids.
Yes. There's a long story about why, even before I played drums, why that name was very important. But we won't go into it on your podcast.
I forgot to start my clock, so I know when we got to stop.
Oh, okay. Does that mean we have to do all this over again?
No, we're done.
Good. Bye, folks.
Yeah, we'll see ya. Man, so you've got more toys here than anybody in the world.
It's a fun place to work.
Yeah. So we took a tour already of the downstairs studio.
Yes.
And we are here in the lovely podcasting suite upstairs.
Also known as the room above my garage.
Yeah. I've even got my logo. How cool is that?
Look at that.
The hospitality is awesome, sir. Thank you.
Yes. I really, over the past, I've been in the studio business for about 18 years at this point. And I've...
Since you were 10.
So, yeah, exactly. Since I was a wee little lad. I really have progressively tried to create an environment for myself where I have not only all the tools that I need at any given time, I have places to work that have the tools that are specific for those places. So when I'm in my control room, everything that I need in that control room at that moment should be there. If it's not, it should be really, really close.
Right.
Drum-wise, let's just say that I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a drum sound I could not get.
Yes, I'm gonna post the picture of the 60,000 snares in the first room we saw there.
Yes. I have a very good alarm system and 2 huge guard dogs.
Yes, we met them as well.
Yes, yeah. As long as you're with me, they're gonna love you.
Yeah.
If you come unannounced,
we should point that out. Do not come uninvited.
By appointment only.
Yes.
No, it's so if there's a drum sound that I want to be able, or that someone else wants. Let's clarify that, because I'm in the service business. All of this is about being of service to other people. So if someone says, I'm hearing this particular snare drum sound, there's 65 different snare drums I can pick from. If they say, I want this kick drum sound or these toms, or there are plenty of choices. Cymbals, mics, pre's, everything is right at my fingertips. If I'm upstairs working on interviewing people, I don't want to have to upend everything downstairs to be able to come up here and have a conversation that we can record or that we can stream and push out onto the internet.
Right.
So it really is just about having all the tools that I need, where I need them, at the time that I need them, so that I can be creative and as quick as I can possibly be, which quick to me is different than quick to everybody else.
Right.
So
that leads into sort of today's topic in a moment, but I did want to mention I like the idea you have that right behind the primary two-shot camera there,
yes.
is your office, in the office.
Yes.
And I feel you when you're saying that's where I spend as little time as possible doing the business crap that I don't want to do, like invoicing. And
I really, I'm okay at business. I've become a better business person over time, but it's something I hate. From time to time, I've hired people to try and handle business for me, and they usually fail miserably.
Right.
For a variety of reasons, but I'm a benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
So
ditto. That's actually in my first album. It's in the liner notes.
Really?
Yes.
So I have a certain way that I need things done. I like things done a certain way, and I like them done. Let's just say I like them done when and where and how I like them done.
Right.
So business is something I don't like to spend a lot of time on. I've tried to put a lot of systems in place so I can minimize the amount of time. But I've also tried to, again, create a space behind that camera where when I sit in that chair, I can focus on just that.
Right.
Yesterday was a perfect example. 11 a.m., I sat down in that chair, and I knew that I had a ton of work. That's the work that I talk about when I talk about work. And I sat down there. 4:30 in the afternoon, I was still sitting there, and hopefully that's the only time I'll sit there all week. But I just knocked it all out. Just
right.
Bam, bam, bam. Set them up, knock them down, totally done. And it allows me not only to focus, but because it's such a small little desk, everything's kind of cramped. Even the chair's not very comfortable.
Nice.
With the exception of yesterday where I had to play catch up. I spend as little time as I absolutely have to there. I get it done, I get out of there, and I move on to the stuff that I enjoy.
By the way, I had in my notes even, but I may have touched on this with you before, but do you ever use the Pomodoro technique?
I have tried it, and it really depends on my mood. Everything is mood for me.
For our listeners who may not have caught whatever episode I was talking about that stuff in, and you should go back and check all of them just to make sure you find that one.
You should listen to every single episode of this podcast.
Yeah, but the very last, what is probably the immediately previous episode to this one, as my assumption, is the Cuba podcast, and it was freaking killing me. I mean, I got back in January. I wanted to do it from Cuba.
Right.
And I've decided it was probably going to be like a 3-parter to do it right. And I got back January 25th. It is now it's now June. And I just put the video version out a couple of days ago. Wow. So it was killing me. A lot of stuff. But finally, I started using I was getting close to the finish line. Yep. And I got to tell you, for me, this Pomodoro technique is just where you work typically 25 minutes at a time. You can't work on more than one thing unless you finished the thing that you were checking off next. Then every 25 minutes, you were required to take a 5-minute break and do something else, not think about what you were just working on. So if I'm on the boat, I'll typically be in the nav station down below, and every 25 minutes, I'll hear the little ding, get up and walk around the deck, get some sunshine and whatnot. Or if I'm at home in the red room, I'll go out on the porch on the deck. And then you come, and it's just the break for me is just long enough to be between. Gee, I wish I had more time for a break. And I'm really, if I'm going to get back to work, I'm antsy to do it. Yeah. And that being antsy to get back to the next segment of 25 minutes, which is just long enough you can really flow, is works for me. And then every 4 of those segments, you then take a 25-minute break or so. Yeah. And, man, I was knocking out the Pomodoros, so I finally got that sucker out, which you can see at the multimedianinja.com/55. I highly recommend it. Yes, .com. We'll put in the little sound effect. .com. But, yeah, Pomodoro technique works for me, not so much for you. So there you go.
Well, and again, it all depends on my mood. It also depends on what I'm doing. When I'm mixing, I do have a schedule. I do 50 minutes of mixing and 10 minutes of an ear break. And it's the only reason most of my mix days, if I'm just doing mixing, most of my mix days run anywhere from 9 hours to 14 hours. It depends on when my deadline is.
Right.
And again, I try and run with the muse. So the only reason I do the 50 on, 10 off is to make sure that I don't burn my ears out. I could sit there for 5 solid hours and mix and be perfectly fine in that chair. But I wouldn't be able to go nearly as long into the day.
Right.
So, but everything else has, it really has to do with the thread. Whatever thread I'm on at that particular point in time. Not to plug anything, but if you get the June issue of Drum Magazine, that's this. I'll hold it up right there in my own personal close up there. You'll notice it is a recording issue, but the guy who is on the cover is Bron Daler from the band Mastodon. So I spent about a day and a half with those guys in the studio while they were working on their new record with Brendan O'Brien. And when it came time to write this article, I had started to write this article probably 3 times.
Right.
I got about 15 minutes in, and I'm just like, the muse is not really hitting me right now. But the day that I wrote this article, and it's about a 3,200 word article, it's it's the feature piece of the magazine, 8 hours from start to finish to write that one article. And I might have gotten up, other than maybe for a potty break, because there's one right around the corner, I might have gotten up twice in 8 hours.
Right.
But that's because the muse just said, all right, I've found what I've been looking for as the linchpin for what this article should be, what it should do. And so it was just writing feverishly. I worry sometimes in those moments if I interrupt the flow, that I'm going to lose the thread.
Right.
And so I just have to stick to it. Now, at the end of that 8-hour day, I was completely exhausted. You would think sitting in a chair and writing wouldn't be a big wear and tear on you, but physically and mentally, I was
tough on some parts.
It's tough on your boohine, and I have a comfortable chair that I sit in to write, but it was just everything about that level of concentration for that amount of time on that particular kind of thing to stay in that slot.
Right.
Meant that I really couldn't take a whole lot of breaks. And like I say, the small break that I took to run out and run back in just to provide comfort for myself was as short as it could be. It was get up, go, come back, wash your hands, come back, right back to it. And the whole time...
Glad you clarified.
Wash my hands and come back. But the whole time that I do that, I'm actually talking. This is the weird thing. If I get on a thread like that for writing, I'm actually talking about the next things that I'm going to be typing, so that I just keep the thread going and I don't drop it. So it really depends. If I'm doing a drum track, then I definitely have to shorten the length of time, and I take more breaks. But yeah, it really is running with the muse.
Yeah, you raise a good point too. I should have thrown in there that. Same thing here. If I tend to use that Pomodoro thing when I'm running into a block to help with the block. If I'm actually in a flow state, then I'll just not even bother. Just go and keep going till the muse says, I'm done.
Yeah. I can work from 2 places. I can work from the disciplined role of... like I do with my morning pages. It's 9 a.m. I'm going to sit for 30 minutes and write these 3 pages.
Right.
Usually the first page is garbage. It's just whatever's happening. By the 3rd page, whatever needed to happen that day, whatever I needed to commit to paper is there on the page. That comes from the discipline of it. And there's some great work that you can do if you're disciplined. Songwriters, if you don't have this period of time that you sit down every day to write songs. They may not be the best songs that you write, but you're flexing these muscles that when inspiration really does hit you and that amazing song that you write in 15 minutes shows up at your doorstep, you're already primed and ready. You don't have to move things out of the way mentally to be able to just run with that muse and just see it all the way through to the end. But at the same time, you also have to, and this is the hard part about the duality of trying to be a business-minded, creative person. There are times when I'll hit that creative. I'm trying to use a word other than thread at this point. The when you're panning for gold and you hit that little chunk
nugget,
and you go, oh wait, there's something behind this, and there's more gold there, and you just follow the path of the gold. You don't really know how much of it there is and how long you're going to run before it runs out. So sometimes I just have to go, all right, so I spent my 2 hours on this. I'm not nearly to the level of my taste on the outcome. I need another hour on this. So I'm going to have to stay here. And then the schedule goes out the window.
Right. Interesting. I noticed in your podcast, by the way, Fader Jocks, which I encourage people to check out.
Yes.
I believe it's faderjocks.com.
.com.
And I didn't realize you had gone already to episode 4, but I had heard episode 1 with our mutual friend and guest on our show, Mr. Matt Still. Thank you. So that you were talking about, among many other things, iteration. And that's an interesting thing I'm coming to grapple with. And more you see in what comes immediately to mind to me is e-publishing.
Yes.
You see little sort of bite-sized books and things, and a lot of people are, not just in that space, but a lot of people are doing, preaching, in fact, minimum viable product, followed by iteration. And to me, as a creative, as a producer, and maybe a little OCD producer, I have trouble grappling with not putting out the perfect thing to begin with. And I do think too, in terms of certain, major label record album or something in that kind of area, you do want to make the best first impression. But it can be tough in some, like, podcast. That probably should not and cannot be perfect if you're doing a weekly thing. And so that whole idea of minimum viable product and iterating, and I think you even mentioned it in your first podcast that you said, I'm going to be adding things, changing things, and developing things as we go along. So it's a little different process than the major label record album or something, but one that people have to start embracing, I think.
Well, and the question I had to answer for myself is putting out the minimum viable product going to get me the kind of work that I want? Because work is not a problem. I can fill up the calendar. I can make enough calls. I can get in touch with enough people. I can find work. It's not about getting work and paying the mortgage. It's about getting the kind of work that I want, with the level of talent that I want to work with, and the level of the industry that I want to move into. Welcome to San Francisco, everybody.
Yeah.
If you're on the video, I'm still learning some of the technology around here.
Iteration. There we go.
The backdrop for this podcast is still in iteration. Thank you, Romaine Guy, for your picture of a very nice sunrise or sunset. I think you have to ask yourself at the beginning of the process, not what's the minimum viable product, but what's the level of excellence, the minimum level of excellence that I will allow myself to call passing. What is my passing grade? Not what's my A+ valedictorian grade. What's my passing grade? Sometimes you have to put out the passing grade with podcast episodes. The in-ears I'm using right now that I've been working on for the past year. The version that will come out this month, I've got a new universal fit in-ear monitor that I'm going to bring out as a branded product. I started working on it about a year ago. It's gone through a lot of iterations. I've tested a lot of different things. I've tested a lot of different companies' components. The thing that I'll put out at the end of this month, beginning of next month, is it the ideal one that I want to do? 95% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
But that 5% is going to cost me exponentially more than it's going to cost me to just put this out. My minimum viable product, it's time to put it out. What I've had to learn is sometimes it's better to be a year behind everybody else. Sometimes it's better, instead of being the early adopter or being the first wave of real power user, sometimes, especially if what you have to offer is better than everything else or more unique in certain ways or more valuable, that sometimes what you need to do is simmer, and you need to sit on it for a while, and you just need to make sure that that it is the best it can be. And if anything, in that time, maybe you make it even better than what you have now. Your iteration that you want to push out right now, if you don't need to pay the mortgage with it, wait another year. It's fine.
Or as I've learned, sometimes, which I'm not a big shopper. I don't like to shop. I don't like to research too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like learning things kind of research. I don't like market research so much.
No.
But what that suggests to me, and what I've learned from some of my own projects, sometimes the build it and they'll come model does not pan out.
No.
And it is wise to do one's work in advance to determine the need in the market. But you have, and now we're in like bonus time, so I want to make sure I get this in. You've brought me around to this question. Mm-hmm. You are a web guy. Mm-hmm. You are a businessman. Mm-hmm. You are, as most people know, an audio guy.
Yep.
A working drummer. Mm-hmm. A video editor and producer. Mm-hmm. And several other. You mentioned the in-ear monitor project. You have a couple other top secret things I'm not going to let on to, but so in your capacity, and I'm particularly in your capacity as a multimedia ninja, as it were, mm-hmm. What is the biggest challenge you face in your whole? What is the biggest challenge you need to solve in all of this?
It is an issue of time. Mm-hmm. I have to triage based on a few different criteria. What do I have the tools and the know-how and the access to resources to do right now? That's one of the things I have to look at. I have to look at where does the muse hit me? What am I interested in? I've found more often than not, if I work on things purely for the paycheck, a lot of times before it's over with, before I'm done turning in that project or whatever that thing is that I'm doing, I want to quit.
Yeah.
Like I want to sell everything. I want to go sell dishwashers or something. Mm-hmm. It's like I want to do something so completely different because I was not piqued by my passion and the things that I enjoy, but I was rather triggered by, okay, so I got a credit card that I need to pay off, and wow, that check, if I can get this done in a month, that'll pay my credit card off. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. For the next month, I hate life. I hate being around people.
Yeah.
So part of it is my biggest challenge is triaging my time, because there are a lot of things that I want to do, not just people's paying projects, but things that expand me into where I think we're going to be 10 and 20 years from now as creative professionals. A lot of pet projects, a lot of vanity projects, a lot of in-house things that I only have time for. I've got tons of ideas. I only have so much time to get things done. I haven't won the lottery yet, so until I've got hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank where I can start paying people and hire qualified people that can really do these jobs really well, and again, I can give them the tools and the information they need to be their best. Until I'm in a place in my life like that, that means that Brian has to do a lot of this stuff, and so I have to decide. All right, here's what my budget is for living. Here's what my budget is for growing my business. Now here's how much money I need to do things like go have some fun a little bit. All right. Now
it's very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
So all that comes to a number that tells me, all right, here's how much paying work you got to do. And then I have to look at how much time that's going to take and then go all these other things that I have sitting in front of me that I really want to accomplish. All right. How much time do I have left for those? Which one are the world going to accept?
Do you sleep?
Not as much as I should. Not near as much as I should. One day. There have been projects that I've had. I had to erase that whiteboard almost completely because it was full of projects I wanted to do, and I started seeing other people ticking those off. DVD project I wanted to do that was basically, and this was 12 years ago, I wanted to do a DVD project of a day in the life of a session drummer. Well, Mark Schulman, 5 years later, puts out that exact same DVD. Well,
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. I mean, I was lining up people to do the project and scheduling things and getting everything 5 years before his DVD came out. And in that 5 years, in triaging, it just kept getting tamped down and pushed down. Never happened. Because there were other things that were more important. Mark puts his DVD out. It was great. It wasn't exactly the DVD I wanted to put out, but it was close enough that, all right, well, there's the definitive day in the life of a session drummer DVD. That's kind of done now. You can cross that one off. Mark took care of that one for you. I hope it was good for him. You did a great job, Mark. If you ever happen to see this, it's a great DVD.
Dad, burn it.
Well, thank you for stealing an idea you didn't know you were stealing. Because we all have these great.
I hate it when that happens.
Ideas are a dime a dozen. My brother calls me every other day with a world-changing, multi-million-dollar idea, but
execution.
It's the execution. And when you're one person that has a limited budget to work with, I don't have a blank check on my life, despite what the toys around my facility might say.
You have more cameras than the Multimedia Ninja, by the way, and far more microphones.
I have no hobbies, and I'm the most uninteresting person you'll ever sit with.
Yeah, right. You can tell that's not the case.
So what do? I pick the things that seem like they make the most sense. This podcast suite and the things that we're going to be cranking out the next few years out of it. Right now, that's one of the things that makes the most sense. And all the things that it locks into are the things that make the most sense. Starting to come out with a line of actual products, not software, but products, not to say that I'm not going to do any teaching packages or
top secret stuff.
Yeah. Not to say that I'd never do any kind of online education, on-demand education, digital education, but the hard goods. I feel like we're getting to a point in time in the world where one of the things that I told you, just break it up into like 8 parts. All right, so I haven't gotten to talk about this in public. I hope you don't mind if I take the time to talk about this. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I think eventually, if you're a creative professional, whether you're a singer-songwriter, or you're a producer, or you're a musician for hire, you're a video person, eventually there are three main income streams that everyone that's successful is going to make money. You're going to have to get paid for what you do, and that's going to fill up a certain amount of your time. You're going to have to share with people how you do what you do, teaching. You're going to have to teach people in some way how you do what you do, because the world is coming up behind you to do more of the thing. And then you're going to have to sell the tools. You're going to have to sell the tools for how you do what you do. And that's going to become a very important income stream going forward for creative professionals. Can you have one of three or two of three and do well? Yeah, but if you want to avoid feast or famine, those are the three very important streams and very necessary streams, and 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the commonplace streams that any creative professional is going to have. Getting paid for what you do, getting paid to show other people how you do what you do, and then selling people the tools that you use to do what you do. And so that really is what has taken me in the direction that I'm going. And everything, if you look at all the stuff that I'm doing, they all fit into one of those three buckets. I'm either doing something for someone that they're paying me to use my skills or my facility. I'm teaching people to do things. And now I'm opening up this third arm, which is I'm beginning to put together products that are products that I use. And more specifically, products that I wanted that I couldn't get. Maybe it's, in the case of the ear monitors, I wanted an affordable ear monitor that sounded as good as a not so affordable ear monitor. I wanted something that your garden variety musician, garden variety person that needs a great sounding in-ear monitor could buy, and maybe it can be cheap enough that they'd buy two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
in case, for example, they leave one on an airplane.
Exactly. Yeah. If one's good, two's better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always. So I wanted to be able to create something that, number one, something I would use. And that was in mitigating risk. That's one of the things that I looked at as why there wasn't a whole lot of risk in pursuing this as a venture. Because if I pay for a whole production run of these ear monitors and nobody buys them, guess what? I've got in-ear monitors for the rest of my life. I have something that I can personally use. I happen to think they're going to fly off the shelf. But that's one of those where this is a product that I've wanted, something that is a very affordable thing. I'm very hard.
Scratch your own itch.
Yeah, scratch your own itch. I can't tell you how many times I've stepped on a pair of in-ear monitors that I paid $300 or $400 for. Because they happen to end up on a stage floor or the floor of my studio. And, I'm a big guy, and if I step on something, it's stepped on. Mm-hmm. And it's probably...
It stays stepped on.
It's probably going in the garbage can. So I wanted a product that would be affordable, that if I happen to step on it and break it, not a big deal. I also wanted something that sounded great, that was a high quality, made of high quality products. The materials they used were really, really good quality. It wasn't some chintzy thing.
You're going to have an affiliate link for me, right?
Of course. Oh yeah, believe me. Mailbox money.
Waterproof case.
Yes. Waterproof case, at least 3 different types of ear tips. Mm-hmm. And the great thing that'll be that I'll talk about when some of the marketing material comes out is you can kind of mix and match the different ear tips. Mm-hmm. Because I have my left and right ear canals are slightly different, and it's not just a size thing. Mm-hmm. Have I talked enough?
Almost.
Okay, let me strap in here.
Yeah, we are so out of time, like 30 minutes ago, but that brings me to our last segment, which actually you don't have to do much in, but it's winners and losers. Our first winner of the week, I just want to give a shout out to Jimmy on Jets. On Twitter, he's at Jimmy on Jets, and SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Jimmy on Jets. Winner! Who's got the single out, Used to Need. And I know he's listening, so I want to say thanks, man. He hit me up on the Twitter and said, hey, at Bradford Rogers, which is my Twitter and Instagram handles. He said, thanks for mentioning Evernote, because I went back and I'm paraphrasing, but I found some stuff I thought I'd lost from like 4 years ago, and I found it on Evernote. And that's pretty awesome. So
Evernote's like, it's your brain in the cloud. I love it.
So check out Jimmy on Jets, at Jimmy on Jets on Twitter, and check him out on SoundCloud at Jimmy on Jets.
What's the name of the new single?
Used to Need.
Okay, Used to Need.
Yeah. And I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Biddulph, winner. the Blogging from Paradise blog and 160 ebooks on the topic.
What?
Yes, you have to go check it out for yourself, Blogging from Paradise. And since we talk a lot about digital nomadry and such from on the podcast here, Ryan is living the life, and he's got a lot of solid advice on how you can do similarly if you are so inclined.
Cool.
So we are totally out of time, but man, I appreciate you having me here, and we'll
Dude, thanks for coming and sitting in the room above my garage.
Yeah. We could have said this was a palace, but somewhere. But at any rate, we're going to have you back soon, or have me back soon, or what have you.
Yeah.
And, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen of the studio audience, please give it up for Mr. Brian Stevens.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you're still around.
Don't forget that you can subscribe to the Multimedia Ninja mailing list by going to the multimedianinja.com, and you'll see the subscribe thing. Scroll down to the bottom. If you don't see it, it'll pop up or jump around, or you'll see something in bright, bold red. You can also subscribe to the audio podcast on iTunes and have it waiting for you every week. And you can subscribe to the video version of the podcast on the Multimedia Ninja YouTube channel. Just click on the little thingy at the end of this video if you're watching video. And please give us a thumbs up and a nice comment on this episode if you would be so kind. See you next time.